Hello, teachers. Hello, PDHP parents and community. It's Carrie Ann Fitzgerald from the Program for the Development of Human Potential. And we are discussing our teacher piece, which is Mindfulness Today is for You. We've been talking about the fact that we have these risk factors and these protective factors in the prevention science field. And one of the reasons that we do these kinds of workshops for faculties is that idea of risk factor being negative climate perception. So perhaps the idea of mindfulness is helpful. I always think with this about my time as a junior high teacher in the diocese. You're always creating this environment, this culture, just within your classroom walls, even. And that's really big. And I know that teachers put a lot into it, but sometimes in the course of getting everything done, are we really kind of aligning ourselves with what that feeling is like? And now listen, I'm not talking about, oh, it has to be warm and cozy, or it has to be really sterile and directive oriented or anything like that. But I'm just talking about what's that tone that's expected. And yes, we have this academic tone. And yes, sometimes when you're talking to teachers, the vibe of teaching looks and feels different. Sometimes it's loud and it's creative and it's messy. Sometimes we're moving around a lot and it may be feeling a bit chaotic, but we know that there's a lot of work being done by all those little learners in the classroom. However, there are sometimes when it's quiet and it's contained and it's calm as well. But that sense of underlining calm can be fluid no matter what. In the diocese, as a younger teacher, I had, you always have these little epiphanies and stuff like that. One thing that really stood out to me is we had gone on this teacher retreat to Douglaston, and it was a number of years ago. And we were able to choose maybe 3 workshops throughout the day. A lot of them were on curriculum and maybe classroom management and things of that nature. And at that point, I was really looking for something different, and something popped out, and it was Qigong with Michael McComiskey, who is a teacher, and he also practices Qigong. And I took a lot away from it. Of course, I like to practice Qigong, and I'm not telling you to do that. But one thing he said to me was, as he had been a high school teacher for many, many years, he talked about that power of influence that we have as the adults in the room, and setting the tone and setting the expectation and setting the energy. And I remember he talked about, before you come in to that classroom, before you cross that threshold, can you just realign yourself for like 30 seconds? Can you take a deep breath? What and who do you want to be in that classroom? What energy do you want to charge that classroom with? How do you want to settle the different, personalities that are going to be in that classroom? And I always remember thinking that's really powerful, because a lot of times we're running in from one thing to another. I've become very mindful when we do some of our classroom, some of our workshops with parents. They're running from one thing to another, even if it's in this virtual landscape that we have going on. So just kind of settling, allowing everyone to settle in is important. And a lot of times, you teachers are so good at transitions, and the more mindful you get with those transitions, you could probably really affect some of that vibe that's going on to your advantage. Think about, you say prayers in Catholic school. We're saying prayers before we go to lunch and when we come back, and it realigns and it resettles everybody to what's expected next. It's a cue. So those little moments, really, tap into them. Even I would see the kids coming in the morning, and I was teaching 8th grade. And I remember they had this routine of, I come in, I check in, I put my stuff down, I unpack, I repack, I put my stuff in the closet, and then I, hand in papers to the teacher or whatever, and I sit down, say the pledge, say our prayer, and then we get going for the bell. And even though there's a lot of motion and movement, it kind of gave them that real transition space of, okay, now I'm physically here, my brain is aligning, I'm getting ready. So those little things, if we really touch base to what's already there, so it's not reinventing the wheel, it's not creating new things, it's just really using what we have already to create this this tone that we want, this energy. For me, I liked that calm in the classroom because I know kids are really stressed. And I know I could be really stressed. Oh my gosh, I have to call this parent. Oh my gosh, I have all these things to do after 3 o'clock. Am I going to get out on time? Is there going to be traffic? We all love traffic. Am I running late? Did I forget something? So, coming into that classroom and just having that ability to ground myself, I think, honestly, was a personal and professional success for myself. And I noticed the difference and I noticed the rewards from it. So it's something to try, just a little tidbit of information, okay? But think about it. The kids pick up our energy. And listen, I'm not saying that you have to have a good day all the time, but just how do you want to present that? And I remember the kids were so aligned that one day I did have a bad day, and I was trying to shake it off, and they stopped and they said, hey, are you all right? So all of a sudden, inadvertently, this empathy was building. These social, emotional creatures. So don't forget that power that you do have as that adult in the room. Sometimes we get lost in that. We know that mindfulness trickles down. We know that they have a takeaway from the time that they spend with us. And this, of course, is true for parents and families and coaches and whoever's working with children, whoever's, got children in their lives. We know that they're like sponges and they absorb, So what is it that you want them to absorb from you? What is that unspoken, nonverbal lesson that you want to leave them with? Okay. I'm going to try something, and it's kind of tough because I don't know how it will work in this kind of virtual landscape. But if you don't agree with me about things trickling down, I want you to consider this. The kids always watch us and observe our actions and how we're doing things more than they hear us. Okay? So we can be speaking and speaking and speaking, but they really look at what we're doing. So if I say to you, on the count of 3, you have to watch me. On the count of 3, we're all going to clap our hands once, okay? So on the count of 3, and not before, not after. So watch me. Watch me. Count of 3, clap. 1, 2, 3. Usually what occurs, we're in a big group. What occurs is everyone claps with me. They didn't stop at 3. They didn't wait for the 3. I messed with you. So think about that. A lot of times if you clapped at 2 with me, you're watching. Okay, and our kids are watching. So consider that as you go into this weekend. Also consider just getting some rest. This is Sleep Awareness Week. We know that the clocks are changing on Sunday. Everyone starts to drag after this. And the weather's getting nicer too, hopefully. So just, take some time to think about your energy level. Think about, getting yourself a little extra sleep, a little extra rest, okay? In whatever way you want. Any ideas on that kind of tone and that energy exchange and that kids, trickling down and watching us and observing it? Please feel free to share. And on Monday, I'm going to post an activity called Calm versus Chaos. And we're going to see how I'll talk it out, and then, we can see what we get out of it. Okay. Have a great, great weekend. Take care, everybody.